Hello and welcome to Fire in the Valley. Today we have myself, Mighty Pete, and we have the William Lambe. Good morning.
Morning. How are you?
Awesome. Listen, thanks for coming on. So, William,
Thank
tell
you.
us, who are you? What are you doing? Where are you from?
Hi there. So my name is, as you say, William Lambe. I am originally from Cookstown, so I'm a Tyrone fella, and I now live in Belfast. I've lived in Belfast for 8 years now, about 8 years, and I've been sort of working on I came here just for work, and I've been working in the IT sector for quite a while now, and I guess. That's really it, I guess. So I've worked here for 8 years. I've sort of evolved quite a lot here. I think I've become, you know, they evolved me, if that makes sense. It's hard to explain. I always say that I'm a very different person here than I am maybe in Kickstown sometimes. I think that's maybe when I come home, the pure cultureness comes out of me.
So the culture goes to town, basically. That's what we're looking at here.
Yes, basically. Yeah.
Anyone that's listening further afield, a culture is someone from the country, basically. And
oh yeah, I never thought that.
just to explain the local vernacular. Cool. So I mean, life's obviously changed for you a bit then in those 8 years, and going up. So tell us first, the IT sector. Give us a bit of a breakdown. What does that involve?
Yeah, so I've always been a sort of a computer fan in some shape or form, and I think even at my age growing up, computers were still not as massive. They were always still coming into play, and I remember when I was younger, I was always asking for a computer, and it wasn't until my 11th birthday, because I used the excuse that it was needed for high school. And I guess I got hooked, everything technology wise since then. And when I was studying and had the opportunity to go to university, I was like, okay, well let's build on that. So I wanted to do computing, and there was options of computer science, there was options of other options, and I saw computer games development. And as a gaming fan myself, I kind of was like, right, at that stage, I maybe still didn't really know what I was wanting to do, but it was like, here, gaming, that sounds great, and be this big gaming star. But I jumped on that, and what a great thing was that when I went to university, it wasn't all computer games development, so I was able to do modules in all aspects of computing to get a feel of what I liked. And then when I finished university, I kind of realized that maybe I'll have a look into computer games development, but that wasn't maybe what I wanted to look into. And I'll be honest, when I was finished university, I'll not lie, at the time I was maybe, not the best person doing interviews. And when I applied for so many jobs, and I think I maybe had the knowledge, but the interviews weren't my strong point, so maybe I wasn't able to come across quite well. So then I got the opportunity. It was a job that I applied for, which was just a normal admin role, but the computers development, or not the IT department there. When I actually went to the interview, they were told me that actually this is an IT job instead, because we've seen your CV. And because of that, I became quite comfortable, and it was quite an easygoing conversation. And I got that job there and then. And that's the kind of job that I've sort of been in for 8 years now. So when I first started, it was just IT support. And then because it was quite free sort of job opportunity, I was able to fall into a lot of different things. So I've been doing IT support, IT training, and then that's what sort of fell into sort of project management kind of things as well. So over the past 8 years, I've been doing a mixture of IT support, training, and project management, and all those jobs that I've had within those 8 years has been in the finance sector. So I have sort of another sort of knowledge in sort of finance sector a wee bit as well, which is good to have as well.
Well, I suppose it's a huge sector, and they rely a lot on their computers and hardwares. I mean, if they don't have that, they're kind of scuppered, right? It's
Yeah, I've had many times. There's, if you kind of realize how much, everything is technology based. If something goes down, um, they're scuppered basically. So, and that's where it comes to us, and we have to figure out what's the issue and get it sorted quickly, because when anything happens, it needs solved as of yesterday, kind of thing. When it comes to, like if everything's down, ASAP. So, um, it's taught me how to sort of be very quick um, on the job, kind of thing. When things like that happen, you have to be quick on the job. You have to think outside the box and get it solved pretty quickly. So,
how
and a
are
lot
you
of
in
that,
a firefight? How does that come across for you? Is that something you enjoy? Is that your flow place, or?
I complain. I'm one of those people that complains about it, but I do love it. I always say that I thrive on it. You know, I'm one of those people that likes maybe to, if I come into a situation like that, I'll maybe, moan about for 5 minutes, and then I go right straight in. Let's do this. Let's get it done. Um, I think that's just my way of. I think that's just my way in life, and I guess if any situation happens, I maybe like to have a little moan, a little rant for 5 minutes, and then I just get up and go, right, let's get it done. So no, I do thrive on it. I do enjoy it. I'll, you know, I think I have a love-hate relationship with it, but I think in my, my sector, it happens a lot. It can happen quite a lot, and when you least expect it, so you have to be on your toes. So, um, yeah, I do secretly. I secretly thrive on it. Yeah.
So where does your heart lie? Is it on the hardware side or the software side?
Software definitely. Software side of things.
Because it's kind of like two completely different creatures, right? People that love the cables and other people go, no, it's not about the cables, it's about the programming and stuff.
Well, it's I suppose it's like it's a family. You need both to work together. But no, I think the software side of things now, I do an IT support. There's obviously hardware problems that come about as well, and I do that as well. But no, it's the software side of things, and I quite like the really technical things, like, you know, not that I maybe, like the coding and like and stuff, and the behind, the background of how software works. And I think a lot of people out there don't really know, when it comes to IT, they think it's just a switch on, and if somebody asks for something, it can be done there and then, but it's not as easy as that. There's a lot in the background to work on. So
Take us
yeah.
right back then. 11-year-old. What computer were you asking for?
um, I think my first computer was an HP, and I I think, yeah, it definitely was an HP, and I think it's like anything. I suppose your first of everything is your favorite. Like for me, that was my all-time favorite computer. But obviously, things are a lot different now, and that was what, 20 years ago. So, um, yeah, it was an HP computer, and I remember it was massive. And this, like now when you think about it, it was massive, just a massive thing in the corner of the in the corner. And any time that I wanted to use it, obviously, I had to tell everyone that they can't use the phone because I'm doing homework. um, but yeah, I had that for quite a long time, and then obviously, then when I went to uni, then I used the new excuse was, if I'm going to uni, I need a laptop. So that was the new thing. So yeah, that
So
was
they
that was
were,
the HP computer.
well, just putting you, so you must be what, 31, 32, something like that?
31.
31. So yeah, so I'm going back a bit. So if you're dialing up, so that's your AOL, you're crunching. It's going
Mm-hmm.
through there. Painful, very interesting.
Even my era, yeah.
Change. That's it. Change. I mean, people don't forget all that. It's like change the website and then basically go make a cup of tea and come back, and it might have changed.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just different times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What was?
I remember even. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just curious to see when you first seen a computer, or where you sort of first came across it.
It was actually at primary school. And I have a I have a scar. Now this may sound random. I actually have a scar to prove how much I love computers. Now this may sound weird. So I remember it was P1. And I guess, I think if you were very good, you were able to be allowed in the computer for a wee bit. So I remember, I think it was just some random game that I was playing. And I think I was so obsessed. I think another kid wanted to come on, and I was maybe being a bit cheeky at that stage and was like, no, I want to stay on. And one of the kids, no, I still don't remember how it happened or what happened, but so I have the scar. So I remember a pencil being lifted, and then got stabbed me with a pencil. Now, and I have a scar on my head somewhere, that proves how much that I love computers. So yeah, because I didn't let him on, I got stabbed with a pencil. So that's and I think my only opportunity obviously was at school to use computers, and even when I was younger, I think I used to stay after school. There was a computer club and things like that. So I took every opportunity at that stage to just use his computers as much as I can, until I had my own, I guess.
Do you remember your attacker?
I do know the attacker, yeah.
It's
Not
like,
saying names.
yeah, the law said we don't want that, but yeah, no, it's like, yeah,
No,
the pencil stabbing man, oh, it's
yeah.
amazing. Isn't it funny how even at that young age, I mean, P1 is what, roughly 4 or 5 year old, something like that. So probably
Yeah.
5, 6 year old. So even at that age to come across, I mean, was that BBC's where had they moved on from there? BBC computers?
Um,
Probably just normal
um,
desktops for them, were they?
no, it was normal. It was normal desktops, but then the random thing was when I went to high school, then it felt the computers were a wee bit more backward. And I remember it was the actual black screen with the green writing. Um, and then obviously I think a year in, then the computers got changed. So I think it was maybe just I suppose in a certain schools there was cost situation. So I think maybe that was the only computers they had. So yeah, so at that stage it was a bit weird going backwards, especially when I was doing IT. But things have changed obviously drastically since then, and keeps changing. So
That's it. It's a constantly evolving world.
yeah.
Tell us before we really get into it there. I mean, what does fire in the belly mean to you?
Fire in the belly to me, I guess it's something, something that you truly love, something that you really are passionate about, something that small or big, it could be something that you enjoy doing, art, or it could be something that you want to change the world in. As long as you're passionate about it and you love doing it, keep at it. So I guess that's what it kind of means to me. And I think everyone has it in them. They maybe either don't know it, or they don't use it. And I've learned from past experience to not. You don't want to. I've learned from past experience to never look back. Kind of like don't know with regrets. If you've got something or you want to achieve something, do it. And that's I guess that's what it means to me.
I mean, is it something? Do you have fire in the belly?
Yes, I do. I think it's only maybe this year I've realized how much fire in my belly that I have. I guess I maybe was one of those people that didn't realize. I think and when I was younger, and I've always felt something that I always felt like I could achieve more, or there was something that out there for me. I just didn't know what that was. And I think this year I've changed quite a lot and realized I'm starting to learn that you know that I can achieve anything, and I'm learning that I do have a fire in my belly. And I think when you start collaborating with people and you start working with people and sort of putting yourself out there, you're I guess it's a confidence thing. Your fire in your belly kind of increases because within confidence, and you go, right, I actually can do this, whatever that may be.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Really going forward. So
Mhm.
take us back then. I mean, what was mini William like? What would we been looking at?
I was always just a fun loving, I was just a fun loving wee fella. you know, I was looking back, I was just this ball of energy, this wee chubby ball of energy that just, I guess, bounced off the walls. And I was one of these kids, I guess, that just wanted to be everyone's friend, and just want, you know, and just like I just was always wanting to have a good time. And yeah, I was always, and I maybe wasn't a popular one, but I was always the one in school that maybe always was, you know, had up for the crack, and you know, took every opportunity. Even then, you know, said yes to everything. When I was very young, I was, you know, a very confident child, and
What
with
sort of
massive
age was that?
smiles. What, sorry?
What sort of age would you have been when you were talking about that?
Um, I think anything between 4 and I guess up until, you know, when I was in my early teens, I was a very confident person, and I think now, which is another thing, you know, this year I feel like I've got that confidence back that I had when I was younger. If that makes sense. That I've, you know, so I kind of, you know, that confidence makes me feel like I'm younger again, if that makes sense. You know, that I have that ball of energy in me now again, that I can, and you know, that I want to talk. You know, I've always been one of those people that wants, like, still wants to be everyone's friend, but I didn't have that confidence to be now. Well, now I do, but I mean, like, between like, I suppose, my teen years and maybe early 20s. But I feel like I'm becoming that younger self again, where I just want to do everything and say yes to everything, and you know, meet new people and talk to new people and network. And I guess it's a bit more it's a bit more complicated now doing that, because obviously everything is online. But I'm still doing it, and I'm doing it here now. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
So were you running into school or out of school? What was your direction of travel?
I loved school. I think maybe when I was younger, I thought it was just a place to have good crack. And maybe then when I was young, at that age, I realized I was being taken out of. So I was maybe one of the. I hate, you know, talking about this now because there's no such thing, but I suppose I was known as in the lower class at school, and at that stage, I was even being taken out of classes to do extra work because I maybe wasn't getting things as well. And I don't even know if it was because I maybe was just that kid that was having a crack in class and was maybe a bit boisterous and wasn't concentrating enough. But then I think even at that age, something clicked at that stage where I was like, you know, I need to, you know, work hard. And then when something clicked within, then I became an absolute geek and loved class, and was maybe, as people say here, a bit of a lick, teacher's pet. And so you know, I became a very hard worker at one stage, and I was a very imaginative child then, and I think I still have that now. You know, I remember even when I was younger, there was a time I remember writing a story, and it was about the Vikings, and I ended up talking about aliens, you know, coming along. And I remember at that the teacher sort of telling me off about that, but then I was still all proud of myself. I was like, I've made this really brilliant story, so what's the issue here? Um, but yeah, no, I think I've always been a very imaginative person. Um, and maybe that was another
Any
reason.
imaginary friends? Did that ever happen?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Not that I'm aware of.
Can't beat a few imaginary friends thrown in there. That's always good for a bit of crack.
No, that would be a whole different story for me. But no, I don't think I had. No, no. Which is I'm used my, you know, which is not like me. Anything random is usually with me. But this one, no, didn't have one.
And even there, I mean, would you have written stories, or was it all this just all in your head, just
I
this
would have.
constant weave?
Funny thing is, I've been, you know, I've been at home cleaning out my childhood home, and I had all my stuff in my school stuff and all my all in one like area, and I was going through it, and I was kind of laughing at myself. When I was younger, I did want to be a writer, either a writer or an illustrator, or a mixture of the two together as one. I got really hooked in books when I was younger, and I think that's maybe what helped me, develop a lot better when I was younger, quite quick, because I got really hooked in books and was reading all the time. And I read a lot of Roald Dahl then, and was inspired when I was then that I wanted to be a writer or an artist or an illustrator. And I think even when I was younger age, I was still a bit, I never knew what I wanted to do. It was 1 minute it was computers, and 1 minute I wanted to be an illustrator or a writer. And even when I think back when I was do you know, like when you're in high school and they take you through your career classes and they go, what do you want to do? And I would basically tell them everything. I was never able to pinpoint what I really, really wanted to do. So I think I've always maybe been a bit, screw with in that, a sense that I've never really maybe want to know what to do. Because I feel like I want to do everything. Maybe that's what it is. I kind of maybe feel like I always wanted. I feel like I want to be successful in everything. I don't know. Not sure where that comes from.
Is that connected, do you think? I mean, you talked about wanting to be everyone's friends. I mean, is it similar to almost to the, to what you want to do? You want to be everything, be everyone's friends and all things?
Maybe I just want to be a trick of all trades, or I guess maybe when I do something, I always want to, I guess, be successful at it, or I think I've always, when I was younger, I've always been a perfectionist. And as I get older, I realized that you don't have to always be a perfectionist, because you're never going to be happy. So I guess now I'm a wee bit more carefree and that kind of thing.
Where did that come from, do you think?
I don't know. I suppose it's connected with, the situation where you kind of want to be everyone's friend in a situation,
Was
I don't actually.
Was that your nature, do you think, or do you think it was, sort of seeking connection?
Maybe a mixture of both, potentially. I guess maybe it could even be linked back when I was younger. I was, known, like, it was just me and my mum and dad in the house. All my brothers and sisters were older and moved on, so maybe I was a bit, and I live in the countryside, so it was a bit, I guess, lonely at times. And maybe that's maybe a reason why. And I guess it maybe could stems from, I think I was a little country boy, but I felt like in my mind there was a lot more in there, and I just didn't know where to put it. So I think I tried everything. Maybe I just want to try everything until I find what I love as well. But I think no matter what, I think it's always the creative side of things I love, where that anything that I can put imagination to. And I guess now I kind of want to work on that as well with what I'm doing currently.
Makes sense. And on the creative side, I mean, is it almost like evolving a story, or do you see, sort of opportunities or business, or what are you seeing? And do you see it, or do you feel creative, if that makes sense?
I suppose like in the artist side of things, like, in the art side of things, and you can go wild a sense. Art is the eye of the beholder, as they say. And I think when it comes to the sort of the business side of things, which I'm really working on now, I think you can be creative in any aspect of life. And I think that's how businesses and careers and even yourself is going to develop and personally develop, as being creative and thinking outside the box. And I think creativity and being adaptive is a good combination as well. And like situation right now, we have to be a lot more adaptive and I like to think that creates or pulls creativity out of you, or imagination to do something different, to change people's lives, or support yourself, or support people around you.
That makes a lot of sense. And tell me, the early days, what did you want to do when you grew up? What was William destined for?
On the so there was obviously I wanted to be the writer, or artist, or something like that. And then there was one stage I wanted to be a fireman, because there was a fireman that came to the school, and I was like, right, I want to be like him. And then I think those were the two main ones when I was a kid, either a fireman or an artist, or a writer. Yeah. Quite different.
Yeah.
Um,
A real sort of mix.
yeah. But as I grew older, then I realized that I definitely don't want to be a fireman. I've had an odd experience about that, where that's a whole different story, where I was in a fire, but that was my choice, if that makes sense. I feel like I'm wording around that story. Yeah, so I suppose I might as well go ahead. So on that one, it was about 5 years ago. I was walking home. I noticed in the corner of my eye that there was a fire, and noticed that the surroundings of a house. So basically, their fence around the house, which was quite close to the house, was on fire, and was quite close to their car, and quite close to their oil tanks. Their oil tank was probably about to be on fire, so adrenaline kicked in, and I banged on the door, and ran in basically, and got them out, and banged the rest of the doors. And I was with a couple other people as well, so we all did that. So yeah, I ran in the house and banged on the doors to get them out, because I was panicking that something was going to explode on them. So that's my only experience of firefighting. Not really, but it's close enough. I'll say that I was a firefighter that day. Saved lives.
As you said, close enough. Well, fair play. I mean, that's, to actually get up and do something about it as well. It's how was the adrenaline? Is that a rush for you, or was that sort of a fear?
Normally it just came over me, I guess. It was a panic that I was like, I don't want anyone hurt, I guess. So I kind of just. But I remember when I knocked on the door, they were like, "Who's this crazy man knocking the door at 6 in the morning?" Like, and I was like, and also running into my house, but I didn't know what to do. That was the only thing I could think of. I just like run in and shout, "Get out!" But obviously the fireman came and sorted it all out. And obviously their house was fine, but obviously their surroundings was burnt down. So yeah, adrenaline completely kicked in. And then when I look back now, I'm like, I vaguely remember. I just remember running in, but I think after that, I suppose that was my adrenaline calming down. I don't really remember much.
Smooth, isn't it?
Yeah.
What is your earliest conscious memory?
Ooh. I think Christmas a lot. I do remember a lot of my really early Christmases. I think that's probably Christmas time is, my favorite time of the year. Now it's a bit more. Now it's a bit more sad looking back, but yeah, I think my earliest subconscious or conscious, sorry, memory is definitely Christmas time. Getting the house ready, getting the food ready. I always helped with. I always insisted I helped with the making the food. So obviously, when Mum was doing the turkey, I did all the breadcrumbs and made all the stuffing and did all that. So I think that is my early memory, or just sitting with my family, my mum and dad, just sitting watching Christmas movies at a very young age. So yeah, I say that's my very very early memories, and I do remember like one of my first sort of Christmas presents was like this like Santa that you pressed its hand and recorded you, and then it spoke back and said what you said back. So yeah, definitely my early Christmases is probably my early memories.
Happy memories?
Happy memories, yeah, definitely happy memories.
Yeah. Are you a bit of a foodie then? I mean, if you were getting involved in the cooking and the creative
I,
side?
I would say I loved food, but I wasn't a foodie, if that makes sense. I was a very fussy eater when I was very young. And I guess my parents maybe didn't, you know, push me to eat anything else. So I was basically just eating chips all the time. I just remember eating chips and chocolate mousse all the time, except for when it came to Christmas. That was different. I had Christmas dinner. But yeah, I've always been I used to always say I'm happiest when I'm eating. So no, I love food. But now when I'm older now, I'm a wee bit more, I'm a lot less fussier. And enjoy cooking. No, I really love cooking, and what I really love doing is actually baking as well. Making cakes and stuff like that.
Mm.
So
What's your specialty in the cake baking
I
then?
know this doesn't sound really like baking, but cheesecake is my because there's maybe not much to it, but I think cheesecake is my go-to.
What's your flavor? What's your specialty?
I always do an Oreo base. I like to do an Oreo base. And I think my favorite one was the cream egg cheesecake. Basically,
I'm kind of sensing that might be a bit controversial with some people. Just an Oreo base, and rather than the normal
yeah,
breadcrumbs, whatever it
that's
is.
maybe
And
the creativity in me, outside the box kind of thing. Yeah, and
it's very Heston Blumenthal or whatever you call
yeah.
them.
When I'm cooking, I suppose when I'm in my mind, I'm this amazing cooker. I don't think that's a word, but yeah, no, I do enjoy it. I think it goes back to I love cooking and making cakes and seeing people enjoy that, and hopefully saying they like it as well, which is always good.
So your staple diet as a kid, well, mine was Weetabix, by the way. I ate Weetabix. I was a pain in the backside
Yeah,
for my plain eating, but yours was chips and
that
chocolate
was
mousse.
my go-to. Yeah, chips and chocolate mousse. And then when I was older, grew into McDonald's, and then yeah,
Excellent promotion.
yes.
What was your go-to in the McDonald's? Just while we're on the food subject.
It was because Cookstown. I guess when I was younger, I thought that there was nothing really in Cookstown, and then Cookstown had its first McDonald's, and this was massive for Cookstown at the time. And I felt like I needed to catch up on all the McDonald's I never had. So when I was younger, I never traveled. I never a big traveler. So um, basically, when I was younger, it was either, you know, the furthest I went was maybe school trips to like the American Folk Park, or our summer holidays was Portrush. And that was, I suppose, in my bubble, that was all I ever knew. It wasn't until I went to high school was when I actually got a passport and started traveling. But yeah, I think anything that opened in Cookstown was massive for us at that time. So McDonald's was definitely was a biggie. So obviously I had a lot of catching up to do.
Just say this episode is not sponsored by
No, it's
McDonald's.
not.
Just
I
so
apologize.
maybe run out now for the Rig Mac or whatever they're up to. So what, like, take me on through then, really. So into high school, what was your go-to subjects?
Definitely art and IT was my main ones. Other
Do
sub
they actually go together? I can't quite decide if is that because IT's typically is not quite logical, or is maybe the developer side is quite free and creative thinking if you think that way. as art is completely different?
I suppose it's a debate out there, but to me it's being creative, so I see it as an art, I
Okay.
guess. But you do obviously have to be very logical as well. But I think maybe that's why I'm quite, you know, I think my two minds fight with each other. You know, I'm very logical, but I'm also very imaginative, and then I have to try and combine the two. But other subjects for me was probably history. Um, I suppose I loved learning, about about the past and how we've evolved, um, and maybe it's because I'm quite nosy as well that I like to learn about that. So yeah, I suppose those were the three main subjects.
Mm. Yeah, it's not, as you say, it's the creativity. Interesting you said about, talk to me about your two minds.
Yeah, yeah, as I said, I'm very logical mind and very analytical. And that can be a good thing, but also can be a hindrance because I have to think of everything before I do something. But then, but at the same time, in the place that I work, I have to be very quick on the job, so I have to literally think a lot quicker. But obviously, I have my imaginative side as well. And my imaginative side sort of always wins, I guess, because I've decided my logical mind. I made a decision, and I go, then let's go with the creative side. Um, so yeah, I feel like I'm a bit, I hate to say it, but best of both worlds in that situation. A lot of people will say I'm either very logical, or some people will say I'm very creative, but I think I'm very much both. Maybe there's certain people that see one side and other people see the other side of me in that sense.
That makes sense. I mean, yeah, as everyone each their own, I suppose. Who do you
Mm-hmm.
take after? I mean, do you take after either your parents, or where do you fall?
I always said I was very much like my mum. But then people, my family, my brothers and sisters say you're quite like your dad as well. I always say that in terms of looks, I say that I look like my dad until I smile, and I have my mum's smile. Um, but yeah, I think I've taken a lot of qualities from my parents in terms of my mum, in terms of kindness, respect, um, you know, looking at, caring for people. She was very much like cared for people and her family, and want to make sure that they had the best before her. And I think I have that mentality. And I think that's the sort of my why, in a sense, of what I do. Is that's the backbone of what I do. I want to make people. And as I said, when I was younger, I was always like that. So I'm still like that today. But obviously, I want to use that in a business sense. In terms of my dad, I suppose I have his. I don't want to say stubbornness, but I can be stubborn at time. But then the other side of me obviously wins and go, right, calm down. But his he was a very hard worker as well, and he was a very quiet man. So, and I think, yeah, I suppose he was a very worker until he couldn't work anymore. So I think that's what I get from him as well. Is hard work, and kindness from my mum's side.
Well, fair play. So take me into high school then. What was you were IT, art, and history?
Hmm.
So how did that all go, and what happened after that?
So high school was very good. Up until a certain point, I was learning a lot about about myself, and I maybe wasn't talking about it to anyone because I was learning about my sexuality. in that sense. And even at that stage in a small town, learning about that stuff, you can't really, I felt like I had no one really to talk to about that kind of thing. So I think during high school, I started telling people, my closest friends, and then I got a bit more comfortable and started telling other people. But that was maybe my hindrance, because then I was a bit more too trustworthy to certain people. And I was a very popular at school. I was basically everyone's friend, I guess. I was good crack, but I was a very hard worker. I was a geek in the class that when I was in class, I was working hard, but then after class, I was, hanging out with my mates and stuff. So I got along with everyone really, guys and girls. And then one day in high school, somebody I knew told a fella in class about my sexuality, and my whole school life flipped within 24 hours. I lost, even though I don't really care about that, but I lost my popularity, and was bullied for the rest of the school time. And I lost a lot of friends, mostly fellas. And was when I think look back, I was a lot more lucky compared to others in terms of bullying. But either way, bullying's bullying. It's not great. I was never physically bullied, but I was mentally bullied a lot, and it did take its toll on me. Even though I always try to be positive. I always try to be, I kind of adapt. I think I guess I adapted in the situation, um, and it wasn't going to stop me working hard. And I basically ignored it, to the point like I didn't even like, if I was in a situation in class and somebody was saying something to me, I blanked it. And maybe towards the end I was a bit more vocal, and fought back a bit, but because I was a bit more confident again about that. But I look back now and I realized all that bullying gave me it taught me to be a bit more stronger, and I look back now and go, do you know what? As horrible as it was, it's developed me in that sense that I'm a lot stronger. I'm a lot more. I don't take. I don't. Anything that comes my way, it doesn't bother me, because I think from high school up until around youth time, and even a lot of you know I've been a lot of bad situations happened, but it's taught me a lot of resilience. Is basically, I have a lot of resilience now. Nothing really phases me. As I said, I'll have my rant for 5 minutes and I can move on. But yeah, looking back now, it, I'm proud of myself that I got through it, and didn't let it phase me, because there's a lot of people out there that was probably in a lot more worse situation than me, and I hope that I feel like I feel like um obviously I wasn't the first to deal with that sort of thing in my high school, but I felt like I was one of the first that came out, you know, publicly in a school situation. And I felt like now it's a lot easier maybe in schools now, and definitely even in Cookstown, for kids to come out. And I'm not saying that I was the first and I started, but I'm saying I feel like it maybe even teachers in that situation was able to learn what had to be done, and maybe they cope now better with the kids that are in that same situation now, and even in my high school. So it was tough, but I'm here now and I got through it. So
What age were you at the time?
14.
There's a lot. There's a
14.
lot of hormones, a lot going on at that age. Anyway,
Yeah, yeah. And I obviously had to, you know, I basically left that all at school. You see, like anything that happened in school, I never took that home. Like I never told my parents that I was being bullied. Because then I obviously had the awkward conversation of why. So, basically when I went home, I told my parents that everything was great, loving life, school's great. But what my parents maybe did notice was that my friends were changing and the people I was hanging out was changing. And I think maybe they obviously knew, but I wasn't actually telling them. So that was a lot to take on because I couldn't really talk to anyone about it. So, and I guess mum was probably the one I really wanted to talk about, but I was just too scared. So a lot of it I've dealt with myself.
That's quite something. So I mean, you were one thing in school which didn't go your way.
Mm-hmm.
You were a different thing at home.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
then you were you the rest of the time.
Yeah, there was somewhere in between as well. Yeah. So basically, my home was my safe place, and I guess when I think about it, like as soon as I left the home, that was the fear came in that like I was going to meet somebody that was bullying me, or somebody was going to say something to me when I was in a social setting. But it wasn't until university that started. Like I started like getting over it. But it probably was an aspect till even maybe last year that was a fear factor. It wasn't a fact. It wasn't even connected with my sexuality. It was a fear of when I was at school, I was maybe feared of talking in class because somebody was going to say something or make a mockery of me. So I think up until even last year, I would have still had that aspect in my mind, even if it wasn't connected to my sexuality, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But it was the fear of still somebody saying something or looking silly. This year, obviously, I've changed a lot, and I don't care about that. And this is why I'm doing this. I'm a lot more confident to say, what I want to say and be a lot more vocal and do what I want to do with a lot less care or fear.
In reflecting back now, I mean, what's your take on, almost a bird's eye view of yourself and what was going on at that time now?
Looking back, I would never do it again, but I would do things differently, I suppose. But
Like
that's like
what?
anything. I probably would have told my parents what I was going through, because then I would have had somebody to talk to. I guess at that stage, my mum was always, I talked to her about everything, but I suppose that little world that I was in, everything but, which was very hard for me, because in my mind I was probably like screaming at her, going, I want to say this, but I can't. But looking back, I don't really have too many regrets, because I still worked hard. It never really affected my work. I still went and did my classes, ignored everything that was going in the background, went home, did my homework, did my coursework. I guess my only regrets was maybe a wee bit more vocal to the people that were bullying me, and maybe a bit more fighting back vocally. But I don't think it would have made any difference, to be honest. A lot of those people now, not everyone, but a few people have come to me since and apologized, which at the time I maybe didn't accept, because I was still in that mindset. But now, I accept it, because I realized that, as you say, we were all in hormones, and when you don't know about something and you're scared, you maybe fight back, and that way of fighting is maybe bullying. And that was their way of fighting the fear, and I used to just say, I'm still me. Do you know what I mean? But I probably changed a bit, because I was a lad's lad, but I was also like I had good crack. You know, I was able to hang out with guys and girls. You know, I was a lad's lad, but I also was able to. I was a I was a people person. But then due to that, I had to adapt, and I ended up having to become friends with a lot of girls, and which because I couldn't be that like talk about lads things. Now I had a couple of mates who were still by my side, two lads, which I'm very grateful for. They said that they didn't care. Which was, when I look back now, it was very strong of them to do so, because at the school time they probably had rumors about them as well. You know, I was in a situation where I came to school and I would have heard so many rumors about me. You know, and that was another fear thing. And I had to keep knocking. It was like I suppose a fire in a sense. I had to keep knocking through and keep telling them that any of the stuff that you're saying about me is not true. So yeah.
God, it's a lot going on for you at that time. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
It was. It was. I'm one of those people that, like, when something happens, I put it in a box and put it away. But I feel like I've opened the box a bit. You know, it was very tough, but and looking back now, I actually don't know how I did it. You know, but I did. It was there was good days and there was bad days, and there was some dreadful days. But I think the people that I had still by my side in my friendship bubble, and you know, my work was my helped me through, because I knew I had something to work for. And at that time, I didn't even know I was going to end up going to university. You know, I was always told that I probably won't go to university. I'll probably just go to I'll just pass my GCSEs and then go to tech, or
who told you that?
I guess teachers, in a sense. I think teachers were shocked with my results as much as as much as I was. And I think because I wasn't, and maybe in my family I wasn't explicitly told, but maybe they assumed, because I'm the only one in my family that went to uni. So it was a very big thing when it happened. But yeah, I think that was it. Really, it was teachers. I think just didn't expect the results that I was going to get, and I think at that stage I was in a because of everything I was going through. I guess I wanted to prove them wrong, and put my head down, and worked harder, even harder. So, and yeah, when I passed all my GCSEs, I was shocked, and I was like, oh, I actually have an opportunity to do my A levels, and I think I look back, and that was probably the happiest I've ever seen my mum when I got my GCSE results, because I've never seen her jump for joy so much. And I think that's one of the memories that I always look back and think about when I have tough days. That was the proud moment in her life. So, and then obviously I did my levels and then passed them as well. And that was when I had the opportunity to go to university. My parents did everything they could to, you know, help me do that. We weren't there. You know, there wasn't a lot of money in my family, so they did everything they could to help me in that sense. So, you know, even at that, I'm very, very grateful for that.
The studying bit, I mean, was that a form of, you know, was that for you and what you're capable of, or was it a form of people pleasing, or where do you think that sort of came from?
The studying, as in, like, yeah, no, it was more from. I suppose a part of it was, but a very small part was proving that I can, you know, work hard. But for me, I love learning. I when I finished university, and I really did miss learning, but realized you can learn all the time, reading books or etc. You can still do that, but I suppose people see me as a geek. I was always reading I love learning about new things and just develop myself, and I'm always intrigued, no matter what the subject is. So yeah, I think it was more just for learning for me. I love learning new things, and um, yeah, I think that's it really.
How would you have seen it from the outside? I mean, and how did you handle it at that time? I mean, that sort of feedback that you had. Did you introvert? Because you talked about putting it in a box and almost locking it away, or was there a fight back? Or
I did become quite an introvert because my friendship circle went reduced drastically, and I guess in your teens, reckless teen, I suppose I was known as a really good child, but I think it was maybe because I didn't have the opportunity. And then, in my friendship circle, maybe they were they didn't really, go out or but I was, not on purpose, but I was, and I did suppose became an introvert, and as I said, my home was my safe space. So I guess the only things I did wouldn't go in a cinema, and that was it. And I suppose that's not very reckless as a teenager. And it wasn't until I became 18 where I actually had the opportunity where I made new friendships and I started going out. And in my parents' eyes, that was me being bad, and I was like, no, that's just me, just being social, or coming home late and stuff like that. I suppose that was quite a shock for them because it was even something small as something big to them. So I find it quite funny that they were thinking I was being bad because I came home late, or I did that, oh, I'm staying with my mates kind of thing at 18 years old. But yeah, I was an introvert, but I slowly, then when I had access to going out, I suppose, I think it was maybe I was an extrovert trapped in an introvert's body at that stage. I was wanting to come out, go out and have fun, but I didn't have that. I didn't have those opportunities. But then obviously uni came along, and those opportunities came quite well because you have that freedom, I suppose, when you go to university.
that's a curious expression, that extrovert traveling in an introvert's body.
Yeah. See, I've realized there's a lot of things I've said. I have two sides to me, and there's different parts of me, But yeah, I suppose it's the other thing. I always say that I always said that I'm a city boy trapped in a country boy's body. I'm a country boy that always wants to. I've always, when I'm younger, I've always wanted to see more, do more, but I've maybe been a bit scared to do that. But I'm a lot more, now. I'm not as scared now to take every opportunity and do more and say more.
I mean, where are you now in terms of the sort of the real you and the you that we see today? I mean, how much of a gap, or is there a gap?
I think it's only this year has been a turning point for me. Like I've changed very drastically this year, and I, confidence wise, physical wise as well, but mentally, you know, I I've had a lot of situations. I hate using them as excuses, but there's been a lot of situations where I've been in that I've used that. That's maybe not, I don't want to, stop me from doing things because I wasn't emotionally there. Because there was the bullying, but then when I went to uni, then I started thriving and was evolving a bit, and then my mum passed away when I was at university, so then I sort of backtracked a wee bit and lost my confidence again. Became a wee bit introvert again. Then I started getting better again and evolving again, and then my dad got sick, and then my dad passed away at Christmas time, and that was. But then during, I suppose this year, at the start of the year, I was, grieving, and then lockdown happened, and I guess something clicked with me then that I can't do this anymore. If I want to, I think that drive and that, as you say, the fire in the belly, became in me, and I realized, I have all this time and opportunity to work on myself and do what I want to do in life. So, and when I started doing all that, I started falling into, situations where, like, I found Gary Doherty and started, collaborating with him, and I was in his group and meeting like-minded people like yourself and all these people and that are, evolving and personally developing and do what they want to do in life. And I fell into that group, still not really knowing what I'm doing, but I think everyone in that group inspired me. And I started saying yes to things, and when I started saying yes to things, opportunities came along, and then confidence increased. And it all, that all works together as to where I'm at now. And I've realized I'm starting to learn what I want to do in life, what I want to do in the world, who I want to be. And I feel like I am the person that I always was, but it was just, too scared to be. If that makes sense. I look back. So I've lost a lot of weight this year as well. So I've lost nearly 5 stone this year as well, which has also helped my mental side of things, confidence-wise things. So I look back at photos, even as of last year, and I look at those photos and I actually go, I don't know who that person is. It's really weird for me. I look at that and I go, I don't recognize that person. So I feel like I'm a changed person. The person that I always was meant to be, but I just had to go through a journey to get there. So, and I have no regrets. Whatever happened in the past has happened. So,
what triggered you to start saying yes?
I guess I think people starting to I think people always believed in me, but I suppose maybe it's like a country, maybe like a country thing, or like even a thing here in Northern Ireland. People don't really maybe are communicative enough where they say they believe in you, or even things like I love you and things like that. We're very quiet. We never really want to say what we want to say, and I think we're all, a lot of people maybe need to hear that to grow or do what they want to do. So I guess, I know always people have believed in me, but I'm maybe one of those people that need to hear it, I guess. But then when I fell into the group and Gary's group and I sort of put myself out there and seeing when people started saying that they were inspired by my journey, they were inspired by what I was saying, inspired, or they believed in me, that drove me further. And I was like, I'm going to say, and it kind of gave me confidence to say yes to things, because I knew that these new people that I'm, working with got my back, in a sense. And a lot, people maybe don't want to say it, but they do want, people to say, well done, pat on the back, you're doing great. And yeah, I think that was a part of the reason, was I was, getting feedback and good feedback. And since doing that, that's now, I suppose, maybe the way I've changed has now fallen into my personal life. The people around me are now a lot more vocal. and saying things like "I believe you," and I think it's maybe because maybe I wasn't saying it to them, and I've started saying things like that. I'm grateful for you, and you're doing really well, and in my circle. So yeah, I think that's a big reason for me. Belief.
It's I mean, it's an amazing journey, really. I mean, your mother passed away, you said, when you were in university.
Yeah. She when I look back, I think, what was it like? I like, how did I notice stuff was going? So when I was in university, she all of a sudden wasn't very well. And maybe I was very gullible during this situation. But she was in a hospital. But no one was telling me anything. And at the time, my mum's personality was changing because I always say mum will always be my best friend. We were very, very close, and told each other, everything. And I felt like she wasn't telling me something, and even no one was telling me why she was in the hospital. And when she passed away, I found out it was because she told everyone to not tell me. So when I asked, like even when I was in the hospital, I was asking questions. They were not saying explicitly. So what happened was, I was visiting her every week, but her personality was changing completely, and I didn't at the time click with me, why. But it was one day I was at university, and I got a call from the hospital, and said, just to let you know that your mum has cancer. So all this time, months, she had cancer, but I didn't know, because she didn't want to. She didn't want to hinder my. Well, she didn't tell any of my family. It was only my father, and even only towards the end, my father only knew. She didn't want to tell anyone because she didn't want to hinder anyone. She didn't want to annoy anyone. And I think for me, she didn't want to worry me or ruin my university experience. But I look back and go, why? Why did you not tell me? But yeah, when I got the call, I remember, even like, as dramatic as it sounds, I collapsed. It was I was, panic stations. And within, I was told to come home. Um, and within 20, then I remember going to the hospital the next day and was told that we don't know how long. It could be a week, could be a month. And then I actually sat where, and actually, because I knew what was going on, I kind of was able to react better and say what I needed to say to her. 24 hours later, she passed away. So I didn't have much time to compute it all. Everything happened so fast. But I'm glad we were told towards the end, because we were all with her at the time when she passed away. And I was glad that we were by her side till I guess, till the end. And I guess I look back, and I know why she did it, but sometimes, I get sad thinking about it, going, I wish she told us sooner, because we could have helped her and supported her a lot better. But I know why she did it, so I have to respect why she did it.
Listen, I'm sorry to hear this. Listen, it's never easy. It's
No.
is
But
there a connection between yourself and sort of struggling to tell your parents, and maybe your mother struggling to tell you guys?
it's probably our family are not very good at being communicative. We don't say it now. Me and my mum would be very different. I would have always said, I would always told her I loved her. She would always told me I loved me. I maybe wouldn't have said it. I think when I was younger, I would have said it to my dad. But even at that was quite you know, big, because we don't talk like that, you know, we don't. But yeah, I think it runs within all of us. We're a very vocal family, if that makes sense. But we don't actually say how we really feel. As a family, we're a lot better now. I think we've went through a lot of tough situations to be a bit more vocal. But I think when things calm down again, we all maybe fall into those boxes again where we maybe are not as communicative again. But when I'm still very, I try to be more. I say what I need to say. But it's something that I would love to work on with my family, I guess. That we do talk a lot more about our feelings. Because when we don't, you know, it causes friction, you know, and I guess in any family, if you don't talk about your feelings, you know, I think in every family there's a certain amount of jealousy or annoyance, or if you don't say what you want to say, especially within your family or loved ones, how are you going to say, like, be able to do that like openly to anyone? I think. So I think as a family we're very hard to talk about our feelings. And I even sometimes I still get a bit funny about it, but it's like anything, you just keep going, just keep doing it because you'll feel better for it. So,
did you ever talk about your sexuality with your mother?
I did, but I told her by accident. It was a funny story. So I was reading the local newspaper, and I think it was 20. So I think I told her the year before she passed away. So I told her by accident. So I was sitting reading the newspaper, and I think it was something on the newspaper about weddings, and she said something about getting married or something, and I said, sure, I won't be getting married to a woman anyway. And completely forgot myself.
Love it.
And then literally lifted the newspaper like this over my head and was like, uh-oh, uh-oh, uh-oh. And then 10 minutes passed, sat complete silence. I wasn't reading this newspaper, I was just like hiding behind it. And then my mum was like, okay, so. And I was like, explained it. And then I think it's a mum's thing. I think she always knew she just needed to hear it from me. But she told me that like she loves me no matter what. Obviously there's the fear factor, but that's just, it comes to like not knowing. You know, as I said, Cookstown's a small town. Maybe people don't really, or not really know about, they don't know the history or know anything about it. So she had that slight fear factor, and I said, you know, I'm okay. I'm going to be okay. Don't worry. You know, everything's going to be okay. And then I was a wee bit more. Then a massive. It was a massive load off my shoulders, because then I was able to talk about those side of things to my mum, aspects of that I always want to talk about. I always felt like I was lying to my mum because we talked about everything but that. And I always felt like I had to work around conversations or stories because I couldn't actually say, you know, certain things. So I'm glad I was able to tell her and before she passed away about that. And you know, one of the main things, I think one of the main things was, one of the last things my mum said to me was that she wanted me to be happy, and she wanted me to be with somebody that, you know, loves me and respects me. And I said, don't worry, you know, that I will. So yeah, I told my mum. I didn't tell my dad. I got my mum to tell my dad. He wasn't. I don't think he was a massive fan, but what his way around it was that he loved me. He maybe didn't love, you know, my sexuality, but he loved me. So, which I guess accepted. I guess I was like, in fact, he still loves me. That's okay. I'll accept it. There's no point in me. So we never really talked about. I never talked about any of that kind of stuff with my dad. Me and my dad we never really spoke. It was only when I was really young we spoke, but when I was older, it was only really my mum that I spoke to. My dad, because my dad wasn't very vocal, I couldn't find anything to have a conversation with him about. It wasn't until my mum passed away, one of her things she told me was that we need to look after each other. And when my mum passed, we ended up getting quite close, and we ended up having conversations and talking because we, I guess, relied on each other. When my mum passed, I stayed off uni for a few months and stayed at home with my dad. So we got very close during that situation. So up until when he passed, I guess we got very close, which I'm glad we did that. It's just it was a sad situation to be in to get close, I guess. But I'm glad. Yeah, I'm very glad that we got close.
Do you think? I mean, was he just naturally a quiet person, or was that sort of stories or things within him?
I think I suppose he had his own fears and things like that. I just didn't really. I think when I'm older, now that I'm older, and I kind of get where he was coming from. I think I suppose my dad maybe didn't have a great childhood, and maybe that always affected him in his adulthood. And maybe that was the reason why he was very quiet, very introvert. Didn't really like going out. I think maybe that was another reason why I was in my bubble, because mum and him were in their own little bubble, and I was in the bubble with them. They didn't really go anywhere. They didn't really go out. They just wanted to be with each other all the time, and that was, I suppose they I guess because he was introvert and maybe mum was a wee bit introvert as well. They were just happy with each other's company. And that was all they needed. And I suppose when I was older, then when I started leaving to go to university, it was a weird situation because I wasn't really in their bubble anymore. It was just them two. And yeah, I think that's the reason. I think he was just a very naturally quieted person. And even when mum passed, I suppose it was very hard to have a conversation with him. But I guess I kind of tried, because it was like it's now or never. And I always think back, that's what mum wanted, so let's keep trying. And then it became natural eventually, I guess. It became a natural conversation and with my dad.
Do you think he wanted to, or just didn't know how, or didn't want to speak?
I know he loved us. He maybe never he just never knew how to say it, or I think it was he just didn't know how to. I think that's it, really. I think he just didn't know what to say to us or what to talk about. I think that was it, really. You know, when I was in home with my parents, they would have been having conversations, but then I would have never joined in their conversations. It's when I look back, I think why. It's maybe because in my mind I was like, if Dad's not trying with me, I'm not going to try with him. That was maybe my mentality about it all. Yeah, I think that was it. I think he just didn't know how to say his feelings. It goes back to it. And I think that's maybe the reason why we're all like that.
It's hard, isn't it? Because you sometimes wonder why other people are reacting to you when actually I suppose you also never know what's going on, because it could be nothing to do with you. They're trying to sort out their own world. And
yeah, I'm very much, I see that so much more now. You know, in any given situation, if anyone reacts in a negative way, or I see them, you know, being down or sad or angry, or in a public setting, I always think back, you know, maybe they're going through something, maybe they're dealing with something that they're going through. that's, I have a lot of empathy for people now, and a lot of people, like, I've always had empathy for people, but it all makes sense to me now. It all connects with me, you know. I try and see the good side of people in every given situation, even if they're being extra negative. But I always maybe think maybe they're having a bad day, maybe they're going through something. But yeah, I think I have a lot. I've definitely a lot of empathy for people. And I think I'm one of those people that always wants to make sure people are okay. I always want to make sure people are happy. And I guess I do that in my career as well, in a business sense. I combine the two.
In a way, is that sort of almost to try and help your inner self?
Not quite sure. I'm not quite sure on that one. I'll not lie. I don't know. I've always. I'm one of those people that absorbs. I absorb people's energy quite a lot. Like if I'm in a negative situation, I get quite like come into myself in a sense. I'm maybe not very good at negative situations. So my way of doing is I'm trying to keep them. I like to keep them. I suppose if they're happy, I'm happy. If they're sad, I'm sad. That's that kind of person I am. So I hate seeing anyone sad because I maybe take that energy as my own. And I do it without even realizing. I've been told before that I have that. If you believe in that sort of thing, like spirituality and things like that, I've been told that I have that energy that does bring people. I've been in so many situations where I don't know a person and they start telling me about their life. And people maybe look up to me in that sense, and they for that help. And I'm always open to. I'll help anyone, that's in any situation. So it's just my personality.
Why did the hospital phone you?
I think they knew that it was. I think the situation was that they kept asking Mum that your family need to know. And I think she kept fighting back, and I think it was my dad actually had a conversation with her and said, "You're going to regret if you don't tell your children." And I think that was it. And a part of me thinks that was the reason why she passed away quite quickly when we actually were around her, because maybe she was holding on. That's how I feel about it. I think maybe she was holding on because she has a lot of strength within her. And then when she realized that we all were around her, and she was like, felt a wee bit more ease to let go. And we all said our piece with her. We all had our time with her to say our piece and say what we really wanted to say and have a conversation with her. And then I suppose that's maybe when she felt at ease to let go.
It's both heartbreaking and beautiful at the same time.
Yeah, I suppose it's poetic in a sense, like I at least we had that time with her to, say what we want to say. But it's heartbreaking in a sense that if we knew earlier, we could have helped her and supported her a lot more. But I guess she did what she did for us, I guess, and that's just the way that was her personality. And I guess I have that personality as well, in a sense that I don't like annoying anyone. I don't like and I guess it goes back to I always want to make sure everyone's happy, because if they're not happy, I'm not happy.
I'm slightly curious of the hospital phoning you. and then your mum telling your dad, it's that sort of slightly dissolved sort of, yeah, just you go do it and we'll deal with the consequence type thing.
Yeah, everything happened so fast.
Mm.
Like it was like literally like within 2 days, everything happened so fast, and it was a lot to take in such short little time. And it probably took me 3 years to actually break that down and deal with that
That's like
and
a
accept
trauma.
it.
It's like a
Yeah.
trauma. I think anything
Yeah.
that happens that quickly.
Yeah.
There's so much there.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely. But I'm glad that we were all with her, I guess, at that given time.
Mm.
In the end.
Again, I mean, you not speaking to your parents, about your sexuality, and then your mum not speaking about her situation, because through care and love, she sort of ultimately wants to protect protect you guys, and same with yourself. There's so much love there. It's so powerful.
Yeah, I think that's yeah. It all stems from love. She sacrificed a lot of things because she loved us, and at that given situation, she didn't want to annoy us but actually, in not doing so is annoying us more. But she didn't know that. She didn't know that.
Now and again, you talk about your mother in the present tense. I mean, would you still feel connected to her or see her? Or
I wouldn't say I see her, but I do feel. I think because we have such a great bond, and I always say that she's my best friend. I always feel like she's. It depends on what you believe in, but I always feel that she's with me, and if that's just in my mind, at least I still feel that. So on good days and bad days, I'm always thinking about her. And she is I suppose, one of my main whys. She did so much for me, so I want to do, in a sense, giving back, even though she's not maybe here to experience it. And I want to continue everything that she did for me. I want to give that to others, if that makes sense, in some shape or form. So, and do the things that maybe she always wanted to do, go to places she always wanted to go, do things she always wanted to do. But also, I'll do those things, but do the things that I want to do as well, obviously. But yeah, I do feel a connection with her in some shape or form. It's hard to describe, if that makes sense, but I do believe
I get that
she's there.
Yeah,
some shape or form.
It comes through in your language, and I'm not surprised to hear you say that. And it's lovely. It's beautiful to have that connection and part of you as well. How?
Yeah.
I mean, looking back now, I mean, what? When did your father ultimately then pass away?
So he got. So it was maybe about 4 years ago. I felt that he wasn't. He was acting very strange. I hate using the word strange, but he just wasn't acting himself. He was getting very forgetful. He was maybe getting a wee bit angry at times. And I just felt something wasn't right. And my dad's he was a very stubborn man. It was in certain situations it was his way or no way kind of thing. So I knew he had to get tested, but I didn't know how to do it without saying, "Dad, you need to go get tested," because he would have hated that. So we actually called the hospital and said, "Right, explain the situation. Is there any way that you can say that you randomly contacted him because you need a test," kind of thing? And they did do so. And he went through like a sort of like a mind test, and I came back that it was fine. And I knew in my mind, I was like, no, we had to wait a few years, and then we did it again. And it came back that he had dementia. But I knew all this time that that's what it was, but no one was confirming it for me. And when that was actually confirmed, then I knew what I had to do. In a sense, when somebody goes, this is what it definitely is, then you know you kind of like, right, well, let's work with that, let's deal with that. And he was still, he was able to look after himself and feed himself, and he was driving. But then things started getting a bit more peculiar. He was like he started like taking a lot of money out of his bank account because he was scared of people taking his money, and he would like go to sit in shopping centres and then leave a bag of money sitting and stuff like that. And then his driving, I always said that he was the best driver I've ever known. And when I was sitting in the car with him saying that his driving wasn't great, I was like, I think we need, then things were starting to get worse. So one of the hardest things was telling him that he couldn't drive anymore. And because his dementia at that stage was getting worse, he would be all right with it 1 minute, and then 5 minutes later he'd get angry about it and forget we had that conversation. And at the very beginning, I found it really tough because he was getting very angry, and I would be getting very angry back. And I learned that was not the best way to deal with it. But that was at that stage I didn't know how to deal with it. So then I started learning, this is not helping the situation. I need to be a bit more, if I'm a person full of empathy, why am I not doing it right now? And I think it was stemmed from because I hated seeing it and it scared me. But when I started, when it got worse and worse, then I ended up caring for him. So what I did was that I actually was one of his full-time carers. So I worked 5 days a week in Belfast and went home to Cookstown every weekend for about 2-3 years. And looked after him. And I guess I put my life on hold, but I have no regrets doing that. I was doing that for him. So yeah, so he got worse and worse, and then I had to start actually making his foods and giving him his tablets, and then he became even more introvert. And he would never leave his room. Never leave his room. He was just happy to sit in his bedroom and watch TV. And I had to just sort of sit with him sometimes, just to sit. But it was quite lonely at times because you're literally looking after him, but you're sitting in the living room and he's sitting in the bedroom. But then he would come up sometimes, and because he was so forgetful, he would be like, "Oh, I didn't know you were here," and kind of things like that. And he would sometimes I would try and basically not beg him, but I'd be like, "Oh, come on in the room, we'll have a wee chat. Come on, we'll sit and have a wee conversation. We'll watch a bit of TV and things like that." And I think that was where we got really close, because then that was me sort of pushing him to do those sort of things and have conversations with him. And he would have told the same stories over and over again, but I was like, I just went with it, I was like, that's fantastic. But yeah, over the maybe 3 years I was doing that, and then he got there was one night I was home, and it was like 6 a.m, and I could hear shouting what ran in the hall, and he lost all feeling in his legs. He literally forgot how to walk. And that's where things got drastic. So that would have been that was about June last year. And then he went to the hospital. And then I think when they say when you change your setting as well, your mind deteriorates as well. So he just started forgetting so much stuff, getting a bit more rowdy, and we were told he was never coming home. They just said that he can't come home ever again, and we realized that we couldn't look after him anymore. And we did. People kept telling us, put him at home, and I was like, I'm not doing that. I want to keep supporting him and helping him as much as I can until I can't anymore. So I had to sort of let that go and say, okay, he has to go into a home. So he was only in a home for about 5 months. he was in a couple of homes until we found the right one for him. And then I got the call. It was literally this time last year. I literally booked my week off for Christmas, and I was off for about 3 weeks. I was like, this is great. I've got 3 weeks off, and then go home and see my dad and stuff. And then I just got the call and said he's in the hospital, and it was the same. It kind of triggered me. It kind of took me back, because then, seeing him so ill, it kind of took me back to when I saw my mum so ill. So it was a very tough week, and it got to the point where I was like, I felt so horrible saying it, but I was like, I feel like he needs to go now, because he's not there. He was just lying there, and you could tell he was in pain, but his mind wasn't. There was no communication from him, and I was like, for me, I was like, I want him to be with mum, because that's all I think that's it. That's who he always wanted to be with. So I was like, and I was two sides of me. I was like, I hate saying that. That sounds horrible, but at the same time, I just want to be, in peace and no more pain. And yeah, he died 2 days before Christmas Day last year. So Christmas was very weird last year. So it's towards Christmas time is a very weird time for me, because my mum passed away in November, and then my dad now passed in December. So that's why I was saying earlier that Christmas time was always my favorite time, because it was with my parents. But now it's a weird time for me now, because I love Christmas so much, but then the sadness is that they're not there, kind of thing. But again, I try and be positive, and try and make Christmas as good as possible as I can. Obviously, I'm going to look back and be quite sad about it, but my sense, I feel like they're both at peace now, and hopefully they're together somewhere together, and that's what keeps me going.
I mean, you can tell that in your language, and even your energy and the way you talk about it. It's obviously that's something that comes through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I suppose that's what keeps me I suppose a closure for me, in a sense, and that that I know that they're, as I said, they're at peace, and they're together, and yeah, and hope and happy together again, and that's what keeps me so happy as well, as much as I can be, in that situation. Like, obviously I'm a very happy person, but it's like anything. Of course, you wish for them to be here, but I can't. So yeah, but I'm still a happy person.
No, I get that. I mean, listen, we all go through different things in life, the good, bad, and ugly, and it's not pretty, and here for small mercies, it's
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
but there's almost this, what's coming across, like almost there's like a 6 or 7 year cycle of events going on, and things like that. It's
Yeah, that's what it felt like. It felt like, something really bad happened. I dealt with it, getting better, moving on. Happen again, something happened. Right, need to deal with it. And then again, but I feel like, and obviously, I have a lot of years ahead of me. There's going to be more situations. There's going to be so many more tough situations. But I felt like those were massive ones for me. Bullied, losing my parents, in different situations. The fact that I've dealt with all of those massive situations for me has taught me a lot, and of who I am today. And I can use that resilience and strength to just. And I always say, when anything comes my way, get it done. It's going to be okay. There's always going to be a rainbow at the end of the storm, in a sense. So that's how I see it.
Does it almost feel like it's time for you to shine?
It feels like that. It does feel like that. I feel very. freedom comes to mind right now. Yeah, a lot of like the word freedom definitely comes, and I always say I see myself as the phoenix. I'm finally rising, kind of thing. You know, I'm still learning, I'm still growing, I'm still, you know, not 100% sure what I'm doing, but I've you know, I've certain goals, I've certain that I'm going to work on them and then see what happens, and it goes back to all the things that I've been doing this past year. Saying yes to opportunities has opened so many other opportunities for me, and if I keep saying yes to these things, the road's just going to keep going. So yeah, I do feel like this is my time to grow and shine, and I'm seeing that already in myself and the people around me. And I've shocked a lot of people, you know, in a sense that they don't. Like, I guess a lot of people are like, "Wow, why are you doing like podcasts and speeches and you want to do this and you do that?" And when I talk to them about it, at first I was like, "They're gonna think I'm just who does he think he is?" But now I'm like, I just say it because it's accountability as well. I suppose if you put it out there, you're gonna do it. So, you know, I say my goals and my dreams to my friends, and they're supportive of it. And all the people that I've made friends with and collaborate in the past year, they're supportive of it as well. So I have a lot of support, and I support them as well. So yeah, no, this is my time. So I feel like 2020 was for a year for me to realize that and grow and develop and believe in myself. And now 2021 and beyond is where I use all that to shine and see what happens.
2020 getting perfect vision.
Yes. that's yeah, true actually, yeah.
Listen, it's lovely to see. I mean, you can tell there's a calmness within you, and as you say, it's that freedom. You know, it's
Yeah.
fair play to you. Strange, well, I don't think it is a strange question. What's your superpower?
I think my superpower is kindness. I would say that's my, if that can be a superpower, I'm going to use that. That's my superpower. We're in a world right now that I feel like there's a very lack of it, and I feel like more kindness needs to be used in the world, in every sense, career, life, and that's I'm going to be using, that's my superpower, and that's what I'm using for my goals and dreams. I want to use that superpower and what I want to do in the future, and connect that with what I want to do in the future, kindness. So, what I'm working on is, I always say that I could have, you know, everything that I've talked about and everything that I feel and do, I feel like I could easily be maybe a coach, or I could be a counselor or something like that. But as I said, I absorb that energy, and I don't think I'd be very good at it. I think I would end up being, as soon as I go home and the doors close, I don't think I'd be in a very good place. So I think I've used that. What I've tried to develop on is I want to use that and put it in a business sense. So what I want to work on is kind leadership in the world, and using that in a business sense. So I'd love businesses. You know, in my opinion, people are the core of every business, and we should care about them. And on all aspects, you know, their mental health, their having empathy for them, being transparent, making them feel wanted, making them feel safe in their work environment, and doing so will create so much creativity within them, and they'll be inspired and grow, not just themselves, but grow within the business and grow the business itself. I think if you care about your people, that will make your business grow, and it will seep in all aspects of your business, and even will probably seep in your customers as well. You know, then your customers will see that energy, that positive, great energy and care. And I feel being a kind leader will make your business shine, as I say again. So that's what I'm working on myself. and working on projects to put that out there at the minute.
Do you like yourself? You love yourself?
I do love myself now. I do very much so love myself now. And it goes back to because I believe in myself. And you know, it doesn't even go by, you know, as I said, I lost a lot of weight this year. I've lost like 5 stone this year. But that, for me, that's not the actual reason why I love myself as well. You know, doing so, getting into fitness and stuff has helped my mind and confidence wise. And I all suppose it stems into one. It all builds a building. It's the building blocks as to why I love myself now. You know, I just am very confident with myself. I believe in myself now. And because I love myself, I think that's what the reason why now I believe that I can do what I set out to do. Whatever that will be in 2021 and beyond. But yeah, no, I do. I think you have to. I think you have to. It's from some people would say that as an ego thing, but how are you supposed to? If you can't love yourself, how can you love anyone else? I guess, and care for anyone else. I think.
Totally, I get it. I'm struck at how kinesthetic your language is, how, you know, the empathy, everything is, you know, and it's really sort of towards that, you know, the touch, the feel, the connection, you know, that's really is big for you, it seems.
Yeah, and I think it's probably, and I think that's why my family are maybe a bit confused by it all, because that's what we grew up to not be like that. So I'm very much, but I know that was my mum was always like that, and I think that's how I'm like as well. So I think that's all those aspects I want to use, as I say, is because I feel like that's my superpower. I might as well use it in a business sense, in a career sense.
Would you describe yourself as intuitive?
Yes, I think so. I think so. Yeah, no, I would. A lot more than I am now than I would maybe years ago. It's like anything, I've learned what I am and what I can do. So yeah, I definitely think I am, yeah.
And what's a non-guilty guilty pleasure for you?
A non-guilty guilty pleasure.
Well, a guilty pleasure without the guilt, but
oh, guilty pleasure without guilt, yeah. I love reality TV shows.
What's your go-to?
I love all those Real Housewives. I find it. I just find it. I kind of. It's like I think it's like you can't take it too seriously, but you know. I think it's maybe because I'm not that kind of personality. I'm not very dramatic. I hate negativity and I hate all that. And then all those shows are full of it. But it adds a kind of like entertainment to it. So it's like most of it's not real. So I find it funny. So yeah, reality TV shows. I remember when I was younger, I was obsessed with Big Brother, and when I was younger, I always wanted to be in Big Brother. And everyone, my family, friends, used to always say you should go in Big Brother because you probably would do really well in it. And then when I grew older, I realized no, I don't think that's a good idea because I don't think I would be able to deal with the not the fame side of things, but like when you go on shows like that, then people, you know, the media want to rip it out of you, and I don't think I would have dealt that very well. Or trying to mix rumors up stuff for you. I think that would open up old wounds for me. Well, wounds that are healed now, but I mean, it would have. I don't think I would have dealt with very well. So I'll never go on a reality TV show, but I'm happy enough to watch them. So that's mine, I think.
It's a bit of what comes across slightly is almost a bit of control thing. You know, it's like the likes of the reality. You can watch the car crash, the everything else, but you know, at distance. You know, and slightly with software as well, it's kind of going, you can play in that world, but you can, it's binary but also you can switch off to it as well. Does that tally with you?
Yeah, I suppose it's like, I can deal with certain things in my own time. You know, like I kind of said earlier, when any situation that's ever happened to me, I've put it in a box and shelved it away, and I control of when that box gets open again. Now today I've opened quite a few of them boxes, but I suppose in a sense that it is probably in a control thing. That's how I deal with things, that I'm very good at. I'll deal with it, put it in a box and put it away. And I suppose it's the same as you say with that kind of thing. I control when I want to say drama, I guess. I don't want drama coming to me, I'll come to it. Kind of thing. So potentially.
How does it feel having talked about all this today?
Quite therapeutic. Well, I'll not lie, it was quite emotional at times. Because I think it's probably because it's around this time of year as well. You have that in your mind as well. But it's quite nice. And again, it comes back to freedom. There's certain things that maybe people don't really know about me, and I'm putting myself out there and being honest and vulnerable. And I suppose it explains a lot of things to people as to why I'm doing certain things now. Because maybe I haven't said it before, even to people maybe that are close to me, or people that I'm collaborating with now. Maybe this will help them realize as to why I'm doing the things that I'm doing now and who I am now. And I think I'm hoping that I've explained that very well.
Yeah, that's now. I thank you for sharing all that. I think there's a lot of people that will help and support, and hopefully even yourself too.
Yeah, like there's a lot of things I want to, like the stuff I sort of talked on about, like the personal, like the career wise and sort of kind of leadership, but I feel like all the stuff that I've dealt with, my sexuality, bullying, grief, all that stuff. There's areas there that I would love to use that experience to help other people in future projects as well. I just maybe don't know what that is, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
What will be?
What will be, will be. Yeah.
If you describe your fire in the belly in one or two words, what would it be?
Hope. And freedom again, I guess. Or those I'm what I'm doing now is work. I'm not just working I'm working on myself, I guess, to then help other people. I'm constantly learning and developing so then I can help other people as well. So yeah, hope for the future is in a sense as well. So hope and freedom, yeah, are my two words.
I love it. Where can people reach out and contact you?
I'm probably everywhere. Definitely LinkedIn is probably the main place. But Facebook as well. Personally wise, and then Facebook or LinkedIn, yeah, definitely for sort of other sense as well. And then even on Instagram, if you search my name, you'll find me somewhere, I guess. But LinkedIn and Facebook are probably the main areas.
What message would you like to leave with people? I suppose what I'd like to leave with people, or even like a legacy in a sense, is that he did everything in his power, and his capability to help the world and the people in it. Is probably for me. Lovely way to put it. William, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Loved it.
Look forward to hearing more and hearing the adventures of. Thank you for coming on. And thank you for sharing.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. Really, really, really loved it.